DW Africa Link.
Imagine a future where traveling from Nigeria to Ghana is seamless without the burden of exchange rates. Picture businesses trading across borders with a single currency. This is the promising vision of the ECO. After years of delays, debates, and dashed hopes, could West Africa finally be on the brink of realizing this dream? At the recent Sahel Governance Forum in the Gambia, ECOWAS Commission President Dr. Omar Aliyu Toure confirmed it. The ECO single currency will launch in 2027. That's the new target for a dream that's been floating since 2003. So what's changed? And can the economic community of West African states really pull this off? That's what's coming up. I am Eddie Micah Jr., and you are welcome to Africa Link, the podcast connecting you to the stories that matter.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
The ECO is a proposed single currency for the 15-member Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. The idea? To simplify trade, reduce currency exchange costs, and foster regional unity. Now, ECOWAS is shifting strategy. Instead of waiting for all 15 countries to meet strict criteria, they'll start with those who are ready and help others catch up. To shed more light on this, let's bring in Chonam Akpelo, a Ghanaian economist with the Association of Ghana Industries. I also have my colleague Fatu Elika Muloshi from the Gambia. Hello and welcome to Africa Link. Fatu, you spoke to the ECOWAS boss recently. Here's a recap of the conversation's highlights.
ECOWAS, the regional bloc that you had, has long been revered as a strong mediator in the region. The Gambia, where we are right now, even also experienced that as well during the 2016 political impasse. Mm-hmm. But the idea now is that the bloc is losing relevance. How do you react to these allegations?
The allegation, it is what it is, an allegation. ECOWAS, as we speak, it's a common market. This is where local produce can be sold anywhere within the community. Indeed, we have challenges in terms of boosting intra-community trade, but that is a different story. But then citizens and the community members are free to trade among themselves. Beyond this, we are working on a number of projects that seek to enhance the well-being of the population. We are looking at infrastructure. We are looking at energy connectivity. We are looking at working together in the area of peace and security. We are working together in the area of health and other social domains. So if you look at it closely, you will realize that what you hear about ECOWAS is more of a hype or more of an allegation than the reality.
You mentioned the free trade area. Mm-hmm. Safe to say it's gaining momentum, mm-hmm. but not without challenges.
Yes.
Other areas such as eliminating visa requirements have stalled also for years, also including the idea of a single currency. Mm-hmm. Why does it take so long to make some of these ideas practical for the bloc?
Visa idea is real. With your passport, you can travel within West Africa without any requirement for a visa, anywhere in the sub-region. So that is an acquis we are enjoying. The free movement is a reality. ECOWAS citizens move freely within the region. Of course, coming across a roadblock here and there might be something we need to address, but it has nothing to do with community policies. So free movement is a reality here. Now, with regard to the single currency you are talking about, this is very much on the cards. We have set the 2027 as the deadline for the launch or for the launch of the single currency. And it requires a number of things. First, you need the political will, which leaders have already demonstrated, but you also have to get certain economic fundamentals right. You need what we call the convergence criteria. And some of these criteria might be beyond the control of our member states. As you know, we have just come out of COVID. And COVID has really created a lot of challenges for our economies. This is why leaders have pushed the deadline a little bit forward so that by 2027 we have what we call the single currency.
Fatu, the single currency is coming. The conversation convince you?
From our conversation, it seems as if he is so convinced that it would be a step toward deeper regional integration, economic sovereignty, and long-term stability. And he pointed to progress on macroeconomic convergence criteria and institutional readiness, but also acknowledged that the hurdles still remain. And that's what he means by the need for some countries to meet some economic fundamentals. His tone was optimistic, and I found his conviction reassuring. But my own takeaway is that optimism will only translate into reality if there's sustained political will and strong institutions and a clear-eyed recognition of the economic differences between these member states. And that's something that experts have flagged repeatedly, because there are economic differences in West Africa, and we must not forget that, because this is not the first time that ECOWAS is making such a statement that they would in fact agree on a single currency, but it has stalled for years. We can only be optimistic at this point, but we must also realize that these economic differences really play a huge role in this crusade.
Do you feel there was something different this time, though, that made it feel a bit more convincing that this time, 2027, is the year for the single currency?
So the ECOWAS president, after breaking the news to me during our interview, went on to reiterate the statement at the closing of the Sahel Governance Forum, and even paid a courtesy call on the president the following day, where he put the idea to him again. And so it looks like they will not wait on all the countries to meet the convergence criteria. At least this is what he is emphasizing. Those that are ready will start while they provide support to the others. That's something we'll have to see, because when the Anglophone-speaking countries decided to make the CFA franc the new ECO some 5 years back, it received much protest from the Anglophones. Not only was Nigeria and even Ghana unclear on anchoring the agenda, but they believed it defied the ECOWAS goal of an independent single currency because of concerns over the peg to the euro and the Banque de France's guaranteed convertibility of the currency. Now, that would have required the big economies like Nigeria and Ghana pulling foreign reserves. So we'll have to see which countries will take the lead and what they will require. But the French-speaking countries already have a unified currency. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are ready and waiting to go, and maybe even support the other countries like the president is optimistic of.
Well, I guess fingers crossed. We'll have to wait and see if 2027 is really the date. But help us understand this even better, Chonam, because, as Fatu and I, are saying, we are used to disappointment when it comes to the use of the single currency for the ECOWAS region. Can you help us understand why it's been that complicated to launch it and why it's taken that long?
So yes, the deadline has been postponed for the 5th time, and now our understanding is that by July 2027, it will come on board. But it's important to establish that the delays essentially stem from major issues, mainly the macroeconomic convergence criteria not being met by member states, political disagreements over the framework, and external shocks. And so you recall that when COVID-19 occurred, naturally most of our economies have been disabled significantly. And so it's important that the leaders' commitment to making it happen is really renewed, which is what I believe is happening now. Because you see, we're in an era of African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So it is important for ECOWAS as a bloc to be able to come very strong. And a single currency, it's a clear indication that the region is prepared and then ready to take off under the AFTA initiative. So I believe that with AFTA and the fact that we've come out from COVID-19 probably be stronger at a region, we may be doing something quite different from the previous attempt.
There are those that are also thinking, what's really the big deal? Why does the ECOWAS region need the single currency? What's your response to that?
The ECO will help us significantly to reduce transaction costs for businesses and travelers. as I speak to you, I'm in Ghana. If I have to travel to Lome, Togo, I have to now first go to the border, look for Forest Bureau, send money, and have to deal with the issue of the forest exchange volatility. So what we're saying is that it would essentially reduce the cost of transactions, as well as deal with the issue of foreign exchange volatility within the ECOWAS sub-regions and make regional trade more seamless, which is what we want to see. And this could also deepen financial integration and create a larger and more attractive market for foreign investments. Because you want foreign investors to look at West Africa as a region and as a market with over 250 population. That way, investment decisions are easier for investors to want to come to West Africa and see it as a region. And so on that score is really important. Over time, this could really help stabilize prices and encourage more economic growth in the sub-region.
What really will it take, Chonam, for the individual countries of ECOWAS to be fully on board and to be ready for this single currency?
My belief is that when the ECOWAS leaders promise that they are starting next year, July 2027, I don't believe they intend to start with all the 15 countries within ECOWAS. I think that they would like to start with countries that are more prepared and ready, with economies that are able to meet the convergence criteria and so on. So my view is that, like what happened in the Eurozone, I think 4 countries can start, right? Ghana, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and probably Cape Verde. I'm just saying. But so as they start, then it will be a good way to practice and to learn on the challenges, and then over time bring in more countries. Because the truth is the West Africa economies are not the same. I mean, the differences are just enormous. If some of the countries are really, really that poor and low, and I struggle to see how they will be comparable in monetary economic terms to other countries that are relatively more developed. So I think that they just have to start and then help the smaller countries to catch up over time. And I believe that should be the way to go.
Which brings me back to you, Fatu. Give me an idea of how the Gambians feel about all of this. Are they prepared for the possible transition?
Yeah, so that's a good one, because this is not the first time the Gambia even tried to meet the deadlines posed by the ECOWAS. The Gambia was, in fact, able to achieve 3 out of the 4 primary convergence criteria in 2017. And those criteria include central bank financing of government deficit, keeping inflation at bay, and gross external reserves, except that the fiscal deficit criterion was not met. But I can say the Gambia's readiness is a mix of progress and vulnerability. What we see here is that the country has achieved some key convergence targets in recent years, including central bank financing limits, inflation projections moving towards single digits, and comfortable external reserves. And what we've also seen from the IMF is that the fiscal discipline has improved, with the deficit projected to narrow around 1.2% of GDP. And I believe the ECOWAS requirement is about 3% at least. But there is still persistent debt vulnerabilities. And that's something that the president himself, the ECOWAS president himself, emphasized, that the debt levels are high in Africa, and COVID-19 also really posed enormous difficulties on African countries, especially within the region. So even though our debt level in the Gambia is expected to decrease to around 67% by the end of the fiscal year, and even lower by 2026, you look at the reliance on tourism and commodity prices and other structural weaknesses, it means the economy is still highly exposed to external shocks. But people are enthusiastic, really, be it young people or even the business-savvy Gambians. However, the wider public understanding is limited, because I've not really seen the conversation taking shape in the circles yet. The Gambia is a small economy and has been adhering to certain IMF requirements needed to ensure fiscal discipline for years. So it shouldn't really take much to get there. But for the ECO to work, I feel that the Gambia must maintain these fiscal consolidations that are very fluid and change rapidly, and even communicate more clearly to citizens what this transition means for their daily lives. Because the government's silence here could mean skepticism and lack of confidence in this move on. And I don't want to think that's the case, because a single currency is a very much welcomed idea.
Thanks, Fatu, for that. Chonam, let me come back to you, because, yes, you did say all it can take is a few countries beginning. We don't need all 15 countries, depending on who you ask, because let's not forget, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso technically are not part of ECOWAS. So I'm just wondering now, would they even be part of the ECO single currency, for example?
No, I don't think so too. Because look, the ECO success would depend on how successful we are with our political unification process as well. You cannot have a common currency and a common central bank and common monetary policy without politically being yoked, or without politically having the same understanding and being on the same page. So what I'm saying is that for those countries that are currently having issue with ECOWAS politically, it is very unlikely that they would be eligible to participate in a single currency regime. Okay, so really that's why I'm re-echoing the point that we may only have to start with those few countries, 4 countries or so, that are ready in terms of the economic convergence criteria, in terms of the politics and how democratic they are, and in terms of the fact that they are willing to allow their monetary policies to be managed at a central point, a central location, and allow somebody else to help shape and determine their monetary policy fees, their interest rates, and so on. And I believe once we start from that point, we will be able to make a headway and ensure that institution must have enormous integrity and have everybody to trust its work.
So based on all this, which few West African countries do you believe could be ready to embrace the ECO single currency by 2027 July?
To make it more, I can, on top of my head, Nigeria, because it's the largest economy in West Africa, and is actually having the headquarters of ECOWAS. So for such a major policy implementation on a regional level to occur, you need a big boy push, and Nigeria easily fit that criteria. So once you have Nigeria, you can look at Ghana. Ghana is fairly stable at this moment. I mean, we've got democracy, have reputation for international integration and so on. So Ghana, Nigeria. I'll go for Cote d'Ivoire. Because they fairly have a stabilized economy, and so with these 3 countries, Gambia has been making some efforts. Gambia has been very instrumental in ensuring that they meet the convergence criteria, and so I would typically also include Gambia for a start.
Okay, Fatu, looks like the Gambia is going to join Ghana and Nigeria and Ivory Coast. How does that make you feel? Excited?
Well, I think it's something that the business community might be excited about as well. Personally, I think I'm also excited if it happens, really, because the Gambia and Senegal, I would even take Senegal for an example. We really do go through a lot when prices fluctuate in the market, when the franc CFA changes, because there's the trade within that region, within the Senegambian region, is very, very robust. So any change in the prices of, the currency affects transportation of goods and even the movement of people. So I think within the region, that's something that we'll be very excited for. And the business community that's engaged in cross-border trade with Senegal generally see the ECO as an opportunity to reduce transaction costs and exchange rate volatility. So I see a lot of benefits if implemented effectively. It could be really transformative. It would really simplify these transactions and eliminate the conversion costs, and potentially even improve price stability there. And even the investors that I spoke to also, it's a larger, more integrated market that we can really benefit from. And it could also build confidence and reduce uncertainty. So, but like the expert said, as history with the euro shows, it will only last if member states commit to shared rules and economic coordination, but also a willingness to support weaker economies in times of crisis, because we saw the example with Europe. They did not meet the ideal conditions for an optimal currency area when the European Union embarked on its monetary union experiment. But Germany had to step up. Germany, with its export-oriented economy, would already even benefit from the single currency, but the country as a whole had to sacrifice much of its conservative monetary policy and provide subsidies to the weaker members of the euro area to rise up to the task. It did that not only because it could benefit too, but because they believed in Europe. So we expect the same from big economies like Ghana and Nigeria especially. That's where my bet is on, really, because it even has a bigger stake in ECOWAS's gross domestic product, contributing about 60%. But it has the economic might as well and a human resource to serve as an anchor for the zone, like Germany did. Germany anchored Europe, the Eurozone. So African countries have unique economies, and we did say that, which poses a greater challenge here. So one country has to step up, and it's now time to not only talk, but walk the African agenda.
As part of why it's important to have this sort of single currency in the West African region, how could it strengthen ECOWAS's geopolitical influence globally? I mean, will this somehow make the region have a bit more stronger say in global economic politics, so to speak? Chonam?
Yes, certainly. If implemented successfully, the ECO could give ECOWAS a stronger voice in international trade and finance. A unified currency can increase bargaining power in global negotiations, attract more foreign investors, as I mentioned earlier, and even position West Africa as a more influential economic bloc within the Africa and beyond. It could actually allow ECOWAS to play a bigger role in shaping Africa's collective position in forums like the IMF, World Bank, WTO. And so clearly it has enormous geopolitical benefits and influence globally.
There are those countries that are concerned that the larger economies, like say Nigeria, Ghana, a few other countries, would most likely benefit more from the single currency. So they have an issue with what fairness would look like on the ground when it's officially launched and implemented. Are those concerns valid, or is there nothing to worry about?
Those concerns are really valid, right? Look, for a successful single currency to be effective, you must make sure that the monetary integration must go hand in hand with strong fiscal coordination. And you must make sure that it's not happening only in the powerful countries. It must happen in the weaker countries too.
Quick one for you, Chonam, before you go. So Fatu, my colleague, is from the Gambia. I am from Ghana. And I don't know if you've ever tasted the Gambia jollof or Ghanaian jollof. Which really made you salivate?
I thought that the conversation around jollof had been settled long ago, and everybody, including the Gambian, the Senegalese, and the Nigerians, have all agreed that finally it's a Ghanaian jollof that is taking place. So I'm not sure we should go back to that conversation once it's been settled already.
Case closed. Thank you very much.
This feels like 2 against 1, and there's no way I'm going to be silent here. We are the custodians, and that has already been sealed and signed. We win that competition.
Okay.
And we
You've tasted it, Eddie. You know.
Well, I mean, it's good, but better than Ghana, I don't know. Okay. Thank you very much, both of you, for making the time for this discussion. Chonam Akpelo, Ghanaian economist, also with the Association of Ghana Industries, and also my colleague Fatu Elika Muloshi from the Gambia.
Get the stories that are shaping the continent here on Africa Link.
ECOWAS, founded in 1975 to unite 15 West African nations, sees the eco currency as a game changer. It's designed to boost trade, simplify transactions, and strengthen regional unity. After years of delays, the 2027 launch is more than just economic. It's a symbol of shared progress. But will it unite the region as hoped, or will old challenges hold it back? Well, I believe only time will tell, right? We value your thoughts and invite you to share them with us on our Facebook page, DW Africa. Listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to click follow and subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabe, and I am Eddie Micah Jr. Thanks for listening.
DW, made for minds.